I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. All the ways you can connect with us right there at the bottom of your screen. You can email us, thestory@kgw.com, or give us a call, 503-226-5090. Let us know what you're thinking about. We're starting from my porch in Northeast Portland because it's kind of rainy out there, even though it's early May now, and maybe the rain should stop. And also because something interesting happened over the weekend. I started to get symptoms that felt like a cold, and they were still there this morning, so I thought, you know what, before I go into work, let's just take one of those home COVID tests and make sure that I don't have anything. Guess what? It told me I do have something. I have COVID. Now, I'm not sure I believe it, so I went and got a PCR test after that, but it'll take another 24 hours till I find out. So in the meantime, I'll be working from home. And it's a great reminder to all of us to sort of still be on guard. I had 2 vaccines and 1 boost, and still, it appears that maybe I got it. I feel pretty good, though, and I'm thankful for that. It's also a reminder a lot of that virus is out there, and as our world starts opening up, you should still kind of keep an eye on what's going on. Maybe keep your mask handy. All right, so that's what's going on with me. But let's get this show going. Let's start with Kyle Eboshi and the big story.
Whenever there's a controversial incident involving police, the public and the media ask, hey, where's the video? Police body cameras have become the norm around the country, capturing real-time video of what happened. But as we've been reporting, that just isn't the case in Portland. Portland is the only big city police department in the country that doesn't equip officers with body cams. Over the years, efforts to get them have been stymied by a lack of money in politics. Well, now things appear to be moving along. As OPP reported on Friday, a federal judge accepted a deal that would pave the way for Portland police to get body cams. The agreement between Portland and the U.S. Department of Justice would bring the city back into compliance with the 2014 settlement agreement over the police bureau's use of force. Here's the tricky part, though. As part of the agreement, the city has about 7 months to adopt a body-worn camera policy. Trouble is, that policy is still being hammered out in negotiations between the city and the police union. The union wants the officers involved in use of force cases to be able to review footage before writing reports. The Department of Justice and community groups say, no way. Officers should have to write their reports first, arguing the average witness doesn't get a look at video before giving a statement. It's only fair. Now, Friday's decision does give the Justice Department final say. If the feds don't like what they see in Portland's body-worn camera policy, they can take the city back to court, which ultimately could delay the process even longer.
So why don't Portland police wear body cameras? Well, it's a long story. How'd we get here? In the fall of 2014, a federal judge urged the city of Portland to put cameras on its officers, even though the U.S. Justice Department did not require it back then. The mayor at the time, Charlie Hales, said, sure. The Bureau even set aside money and held some community hearings to get ideas. By 2015, things seemed to be on cruise control. The Oregon legislature passed a bill that created a statewide standard for body camera usage, and Portland City Council put aside more than $830,000 to put even more cameras in police cars. And the city pledged another $1.6 million to fund the program through the next fiscal year. Then, another year and a different mayor later, things hit a snag. Mayor Ted Wheeler questioned if the project was feasible and asked the Police Bureau for a detailed plan, including how much the cameras would actually cost. The police chief at the time, Mike Marshman, summed it up by saying, that's in a nutshell why we don't have body cameras today. But fast forward to January of 2019, and there was another opportunity. Portland Police formed a team to finally come up with that detailed plan the mayor had wanted to see. And in February 2019, the city held listening sessions. A year later, in early 2020, then Chief Jamie Resch said she supported body cameras and hoped to see a pilot program in the future. But once again, the plan hit a snag because the COVID pandemic blew out the city's budget, and the body camera pilot project was one of many things that ended up on the chopping block. Last year, City Council had more money on hand and passed funding for cameras again. They're now having vendors bid on a $2.6 million contract, which will cover both a pilot program and full implementation. However, things are still stalled because the city is still trying to hash out some details with the police union. The main issues: when and how the video will be released, and if officers will be able to watch it before writing their reports. And that's how we got here.
Last week, we learned that Metro, the regional government, is getting $10 million to help pick up trash in our area. And we also learned that homeless people's trash only makes up about a quarter of the illegal dump sites that Metro goes to. That could be in part because housed people are setting things out on the curb for free that then also ends up in the homeless trash, and that's counted as housed trash. But there are other abuses going on, and we have a great example of that today. Construction companies are using the Dignity Village camp off Northeast 33rd to illegally dump trash. Here's Blair Best.
It's a work in progress between Metro and those who live here at Dignity Village, but they say the problem just keeps getting worse, with local construction companies coming by and dumping their used materials in trash instead of going to a transfer station. Those who live here say it's gotten out of hand.
It's ugly and I hate it. I hate driving by all the mess.
RVs line this strip of Northeast 33rd Drive. Nestled across the street is Dignity Village, a self-governed homeless community that's been here for 2 decades.
Everybody likes to have a nice, clean neighborhood, and to have the garbage out here, it just doesn't feel good.
Lisa Larson lives at Dignity Village. She says the illegal trash dumping got worse during the pandemic.
It's like a whole truck full of household garbage has been dumped out here, and then the wild animals get into it and spread it everywhere.
Those at the village, like Frank Forbes, spend hours cleaning it up.
Well, it's terrible, but somebody's got to do it.
Anytime you see a bunch of tires or a couple mattresses or sofas on the side of the road, somebody made the choice to leave that on the side of the road instead of take it to a dump station, a transfer station.
Metro cleans up the trash around the village once a month, but this isn't the only place where illegal trash dumps are happening.
We're trying to do our best to keep up with that around the region.
This map shows their progress, each dot representing an area they're working to clean.
We're picking up 3.5 tons of garbage every day on average. This is one of the sites where we are picking up a lot of garbage.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And we see a lot of it, and it does. And you kind of put a dent in it, then you drive by it, and a couple of days later, and gets just as bad. It's a revolving process.
Now, Dignity Village is organizing a sting operation to catch whoever is dumping trash in their backyard.
I think it's a great thing. Anything to stop the excess garbage being dropped out here.
Those at Metro say everyone plays a role in keeping Portland clean. So if you see an illegal dump, meaning used mattresses or tires on the side of the road, call Metro and they'll clean it up in about 3 days. In Portland, Blair Best, KGW News.
Now to a tragic story that you might have heard of. In 2019, a freshman at Washington State University died during a hazing incident at a fraternity. Now his parents are sharing their story, and they're blaming the school for their son's death. They say administrators missed multiple opportunities to stop the hazing culture there. Susanna Frame has our story.
Do you think Washington State University could have prevented the death of your son?
Absolutely.
In the summer of 2019, Sam Martinez, the son of Hector Martinez and Jolene Houts, went off to WSU and joined the fraternity Alpha Tau Omega, or ATO. 3 months later, this 19-year-old freshman, brimming with promise, was dead.
I got a phone call.
Hector got a notification at work.
I knew, something was happening bad.
Sam's parents rushed home to find police waiting with the news.
Your son is dead. I was like, from there, it's like, it's nothing to imagine. Till you suffer it yourself.
The morning of November 12th, 2019, Pullman police responded to the ATO house to find Sam lying on his stomach on the basement floor, unresponsive. The night before, ATO held its annual party where new members find out the identity of their big brother. Sam shot this video hours before his death. You can hear an upperclassman encouraging a freshman to down a shot. Police found Sam's big brother gave him and his buddy in the red jersey a half-gallon of rum, the equivalent of 40 shots, to split between the two. The coroner said Sam died around 4:30 in the morning from acute alcohol poisoning. Investigations by police in Wazoo concluded the events leading to Sam's death constituted illegal hazing.
He died alone. And I sometimes, in dark moments, I wonder, did he wonder where I was? Did he wonder where we were? It's agonizing to think that he didn't have somebody with him in that moment of passage.
Before Sam headed off to the Pullman campus, he and his parents read about the benefits of choosing fraternity life. It was all spelled out on the school's official website. A home away from home, academics, a pillar of fraternity life, leadership opportunities, and a commitment to community service.
We were all excited. I mean, we were just on top of the world, you know.
But there was a lot university officials didn't include on that website. When Sam went off to school, there was absolutely no mention of Wazoo's own documented history of a dangerous culture at ATO and throughout the Greek system. That includes in 2013, the WSU Conduct Board found ATO broke hazing, reckless endangerment, and alcohol laws. After pledges were made to clean up raw sewage, they were also forced to drink alcohol. In 2015, the school got a complaint new ATO members may have been forced to drink, resulting in one pledge getting injured.
We know that now. We had no way to know it then. But WSU knew it. They knew it, dating back to at least 2013. That ATO was a bad actor.
And did they have a duty to share that with you?
You bet.
And there's more. In 2017, the mother of an ATO pledge filed a complaint with the school saying her son was forced to drink large quantities of alcohol and withstood aggressive hazing and emotional abuse. She included photos she described as new members forced to stand in toilets and a freshman getting tackled to the ground. And in 2018, the year before Sam died, complaints of hazing led ATO to expel nearly half of its members. Records show WSU officials were well aware of the ATO investigation.
We were blindsided. We just didn't know all of this. If we'd known a tiny fraction of it, I think Sam would still be alive.
WSU declined to speak with us, citing ongoing litigation with the Martinez family. But in court records, administrators wrote they had no duty to protect Sam because the illegal conduct occurred off campus, and that the school's relationship with ATO is to support and advise, not to control and manage. But university records show WSU has the power to sanction and even shut down fraternities who violate policies and laws. The university can remove official school recognition, and without that, a fraternity can't recruit new members or survive.
In this instance, they knew exactly about ATO and ATO's own history.
Seattle attorney Becky Rowe represents Sam's parents. She says WSU blew it by not holding ATO to account despite the university's zero-tolerance hazing policy. In that 2013 investigation involving cleaning up sewage and alcohol abuse, the Conduct Office did bring down the hammer and issued ATO a loss of recognition for a year. It didn't stick. The university president reduced the punishment to 8 months probation.
What does that say to everybody in the whole system? It says at the end of the day, you simply aren't going to be held accountable. And that was a really important and a terrible message that was sent to everybody.
It's been 2.5 years since the Martinez family lost their only son, a soccer star known as a loyal friend, the boy with a megawatt smile whose life ended by hazing.
It's inexplicable to me. Why are we still talking about hazing? Can't we just agree that it's long past time for everyone to do their part, including Washington State University, to stop it in its tracks?
That was Susanna Frame reporting. Sam's parents sued WSU, but the case was dismissed last month. They say they will appeal, though. And in the meantime, Washington Governor Jay Inslee has signed a bill called Sam's Law, which requires all colleges in Washington state to educate students about hazing and to post online any incidents that are happening so that parents and students will know what's going on.
There's a shortage of blood all across the country, something that's vital for saving lives. Blood drives are begging for people to sign up, but gay and bisexual men still are not allowed to donate.
I actually had no idea that there was a lifetime ban. Like when I tried to go give blood one time, they started asking me all these questions.
But there's a big push to change that.
It would be easier for you to get struck with lightning than to contract AIDS through a blood transfusion.
When the story continues.
Welcome back to our home edition of The Story. Please keep sending your emails, thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. I really am interested in what you're thinking about and what you want to comment on, so keep bringing them. How many of you have donated blood? Did you know that there's a national shortage of blood that kind of dates back almost to the beginning of the pandemic? And did you also know that gay and bisexual men are not allowed to donate blood? It goes back to the 80s with the AIDS crisis, and it's something that a lot of doctors say should have been overturned a long time ago. Here's the first part of a series from our sister station in Atlanta.
Josh, yesterday you said seeing after the Atlanta shooting individuals lining up to donate blood was powerful and represents what this country is all about. But under the Obama administration policy, gay and bisexual men are prohibited from donating blood unless they've been celibate for a year.
Chris, as you know, this is a decision that was made by the FDA, and it was made consistent with the advice that our scientists have offered about the best way to ensure the safety of the blood supply.
I think the ban has a history that becomes hard to discard.
Back in the 80s, when the HIV crisis first broke, there was a lot of blood that was tainted with HIV. The risk at that time in the early 80s was somewhere around 1 in 100. That quickly went down as we began to develop testing for the virus and we could detect it. The risk of contracting an infectious disease through blood is somewhere around the range of 1 in 2 million. For most of the big three, we say, HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C.
When I found out about it, this immediate like sigh of relief almost that I haven't felt in the past 15 years.
As we have learned more and more about HIV, as we have learned more and more about diagnostics to detect HIV, the science of blood donor screening hasn't kept up.
Every time you go in to donate blood, you fill out a questionnaire. I would see that question on there. And I wasn't really coming to full terms with myself yet, but I knew there was a possibility that could happen. Immediately, it's called self-disqualification.
I actually had no idea that there was a lifetime ban. Like when I tried to go give blood one time, they started asking me all these questions. You know, they asked me if I had sex with a man. I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, I'm sorry, you can't. And I was like, what? I didn't know why they cared. I didn't know why that mattered. It was very confusing.
Having to just forcefully stop doing something that you really, really want to do is like, it was debilitating, honestly. You also kind of felt a little bit of shame because of your sexuality as well.
It would be easier for you to get struck with lightning than to contract AIDS through a blood transfusion. It makes a lot more sense if we went to what is called individual risk-based assessment, which takes a generalized approach. It doesn't ask what your gender is, it doesn't ask what your sexual preferences are. It simply assesses whether you are at greater risk based on your sexual history. The FDA is all about the safest blood possible. They need to study this question extensively before they will change their policy.
I would just hope that men who have sex with men would be treated the same as anybody else. It's like we're not less than. We have the same blood as you. The H in HIV stands for human. It doesn't stand for anything else. So it affects all of us.
Still ahead, it might seem weird to be thinking about fire season already, but we know it can get really bad. And we're wondering what this rain means for the upcoming fire season. We'll hear from our expert meteorologist, Joe Ranieri, when the story continues. How are you feeling about rain? Did you catch that April was our rainiest, wettest April on record? And it's still been raining a lot out there today. Let's talk to Joe Ranieri about not just the rain, but what it means for our upcoming fire season.
Pat, we saw more rain last month than we did the entire spring of last year, with more than 5.5 inches of rain. But despite the new record, nearly 90% of the state, as you can see, is still under some kind of drought. And as we head into fire season, the places that are at most risk for extreme fire is along the central and eastern side of the state. April 2022 brought record amounts of rain for Portland and great gains for the mountain snowpack.
Outlooks for May are looking pretty similar as well, so that'll be good news for us as well.
But as we head into the warm summer months, it's not looking as great when it comes to wildfire season.
As we go through June, July, and August, our areas of elevated potential for large, costly type wildland fires is going to expand to include these areas, the Central Oregon, Central Washington.
John Saltenberger is the Fire Weather Program Manager with the Northwest Interagency Coordination Center. He just released these maps that show what our wildfire season could look like. The west side of the state will be at normal risk, but look at what we see from June to July to August. That red color expands to cover central Washington all the way down into Northern California. What has him really concerned is just how hot it's expected to get this summer across the country.
I've been doing this job for going into 38 years now, and I can't recall ever having seen such an ominous signal displayed over such a large swath of the continental United States.
Oregon counties are preparing for the worst. At a press conference Monday, crews from Canby and other Clackamas fire districts talked about how quickly our fire season can change.
We typically, under normal Clackamas County, Marion County areas, we typically look at July, but that can change quickly too.
A change we all know can happen at a moment's notice. But Saltenberger is also looking at what could play out in the desert Southwest that could impact us here.
It is possible that some of that moisture that gathers in the Southwest could move our way when we get extended periods of hot, dry weather here, has a tendency to pull that moisture northward.
Monsoonal rain from the desert Southwest that could bring some relief to the Northwest. Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
Keep sending your comments and questions to the story. When we come back, a way that you can help our community. For this week's Hey Help campaign, we're asking you to donate to Cascadia Behavioral Health Care. They provide mental and behavioral care, addiction treatment services, and primary care to vulnerable communities in Portland. They also help connect people with housing. If you want to donate, just hold your phone's camera up to the QR code right there on your screen, or you can go to kgw.com/heyhelp. This is a micro donation drive, so feel free to give any amount, no matter how big or how small. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching The Story. But remember, our story, our big story, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow night.